Coming up on Headline News, meeting held to give evidence on housing and homelessness concerns. Hello, you're watching Headline News. I'm Kaylee Jeffrey and a very warm welcome to the programme. A meeting has been held in Parliament in a bid to address issues pertaining to housing and homelessness. The British Red Cross and Scottish Refugee Council were in attendance at the Social Justice and Social Security Committee evidence session. I spoke with Glasgow Shettleston MSP John Mason, who explained why, in his opinion, it is important all bodies work together, as the issue is not an easy one to fix.
The Red Cross and others have been emphasising the responsibility we all have to house people, but some of the factors are just out with our control, either the Scottish Government or the councils like Glasgow and Edinburgh and Dundee and so on. So there's not an easy answer to that, and I think all the witnesses do accept there's not an easy answer, and obviously they want to emphasise that people have a legal right to quality temporary accommodation, especially families, and nobody's arguing with that. But the question is, where are these houses to come from? So I think people are trying in different ways to tackle this. But as I say, there is not an easy problem. And there's a longer term trend that people are living in smaller households. So whereas in the past, many people lived in 4 or 5 or 6 people in the one house, now very often it's just one person or two. And so we need more housing, even though we have the same population as we used to have. It's an issue that is going to run, I'm afraid, for some time, because we're not going to solve it overnight. And I think it's very important that we have Scottish Government, the local councils and the housing associations all working together on this. And hopefully we've got the budget coming up on Wednesday at Westminster, and if they would even allow a bit more capital expenditure, we could buy and build some more houses.
And in other news, 2 Airdrie men have been sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison for assault following a British Transport investigation. Richard Love and Jordan James Adam pled guilty to serious assault after Glasgow Sheriff Court heard they had left their victim with a bleed on the brain. Both men were additionally issued a 7-year football banning order. A fixed speed camera will be installed on a road in Paisley, where a man was killed after being struck by a car more than a year ago. The permanent enforcement equipment will be introduced on Foxbar's Bredaland Road, near to the junction with Invercar Drive. No firm timescales have been set out for the planned work, but the decision has been described as a welcome step by an elected member. A plan to build 254 flats on an old factory site in Cathcart has received dozens of objections. There are hopes to construct the homes across 5 blocks, with the development varying in height from 4, 5 and 6 storeys. Councillors sitting on the Planning Applications Committee will consider the plans this week. Now for a quick look at your local sport, where Motherwell have created history by claiming 3 points at Ibrox for the first time since 1997. The team's manager Stuart Kettlewell shared he was particularly pleased at the way his strikers carried a threat all afternoon. After the 2-1 win, he said it's a real indicator of how good his players are. And we'd love to hear what you think, so please do get in touch with your views, or if you have a story of your own that should be on the show. Follow us on Twitter, we're at That's TV Scotland. Get in touch on Facebook by searching for That's TV Scotland, or you can even write to us by dropping an email to scotland@thats.tv. 7 community groups have received a funding boost from an initiative aimed at providing Inverclyde residents with access to warm spaces and social connection during the winter. Groups have been able to apply for up to £3,000 from a £100,000 pot as part of the Warm Hands of Friendship scheme to support them as they put on regular groups, events and activities in the area. I spoke with Deputy Council Leader Natasha Maguire, who explained why, in her opinion, they are hopeful the funding will ensure a more connected community.
We've awarded funding to a further 7 groups this year since December to open up their groups or their spaces to members of the public, to kind of provide a space where either they can connect with other people or so they can get a cuppa, something to eat. Sometimes it's just a warm space that people need, which is why we've called it Warm Spaces. really important that this help is offered to people across our community, because with increasing energy costs, food costs, just generally the cost of living crisis, we found that more and more people within our community are needing access to simple things like somewhere warm to go, or they need access to food, tea, coffee, things like that. And ultimately, added community benefit of these warm spaces is that connection within the communities. We're hoping that this will help people find friends and help and support within the areas in which they live. Thankful that we've been able to set aside this money from our anti-poverty funding pot. This money won't be there forever, but really want to make sure that we're using it in the best ways, so that the most number of people can access help when they need it. And hopefully in the future these spaces won't be needed, but we hope that whilst they are needed, that people are able to access them.
And that's your headline news. Coming up next on That's TV, it's the local weather. But from me and the rest of the news team, it's goodbye for now.